you never know. It's one of the biggest challenges that, and I remember a pastor talked about this before, like many, many years ago. And Angelique, if I think Angelique is on. Hi, honey. There you are. Yay. So there she is. Is I don't know if you remember this, Ange, is that we were at, and maybe you weren't there when the pastor said this. So we were at a previous church, and they at the time they were without a pastor, and so you had like itinerant is not the right word, but they had rotating people coming in pastoring, and so this person he came I think a couple of times, but he said he stopped giving names to his messages or to his sermons. He said he stopped doing that. And he said because it was so difficult, it was taking more time or whatever. So actually, that is like one of the more difficult aspects of actually doing a message is like that. And this week, I was like, what am I going to do? Sometimes it comes quickly. I'm like, oh, I know what it is. Okay, I know how it's going to apply because I believe the titles and I'm trying to again take the first century and bring it to the 21st century and give you a visual or a way to understand. This week was very, very tough, very tough. And I had actually gone in a certain direction and had gone a ways. I had done some study on this one. I had like the title, and I'm like, I was 2 days into it. I'm just like, this is not. I even last night, I was still thinking maybe I'm going to use this. I'm like, it's just not right. I'm like, Lord, you got to give me something. Whereas this was going to be sermon August August 28th, 2022. That's what it was going to be called. But I think a little earlier, like a couple of days ago, it kind of hit my mind, but I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. And then I thought about it again, and I think I like this. So hopefully it will work for you too. So first thing we're going to ask, I know not everybody got the email because not everybody's on our email list, which obviously you can get on just aciw.org if you'd like to get all the emails that we send out. Uh, has anyone played Jenga before? So this is the first question. So for those of you who are online, please put in chat if you've played Jenga before. Okay, those of you, again, video, I'd love to see it in comments. Tell me if you played Jenga before. Now, just in case folks have no idea what Jenga is, I'm going to show you what Jenga is.
Jenga is a competitive puzzle game played with blocks that are stacked on top of one another to make a tower. The aim of the game is to remove blocks and place them on top without knocking the tower over. You can play with anywhere from 2 to 10 players. To play Jenga, first lay 3 Jenga blocks together to make a square-shaped base. Then, stack 3 new bricks on top of the base that are perpendicular to the first layer of bricks. Repeat this process until all 54 pieces have been placed into a tower. Then, have one player volunteer to go first. The starting player removes a single block and places it on top of the tower to start a new row. Players are not allowed to pull a block from the top 3 rows, or use more than one hand to remove their block. Once the starting player places their block, the player sitting to their left goes next. Keep playing like this until one player knocks the tower over. Whoever pulls the block that causes the tower to topple over loses.
So that's Jenga. And I've played Jenga before. And again, how many of you, still I don't see anything in the chat yet of who played Jenga before, but at least now we're on the same page. We're actually on the same page. So talking about what Jenga is. And I've always liked it. And then thinking about Jenga, I actually thought about it in a way, and I'm like, playing Jenga is what I have actually done, regretfully. And let me immediately go and say, honey, I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. The person who I have hurt the most with what I'm going to talk about here, because again, if you've been here any length of time, you know I am preaching to me more than anybody else. And so I've talked about this whole section from, I think it's Matthew 13 through 48. Yeah, no, 17 through 48 it's actually a very, very painful process for me because it points out how much and how deep my sin is in so many different areas. And so let me go again, honey. I apologize to the children I'm blessed with, my friends, but again, definitely my wife the most because she's had the experience, and I'm going to go into my significant challenges and failures and foibles. So please hear me as I go through this. I'm speaking to me and hopefully speaking and communicating the word of God. And if that pierces and convicts you, God be the glory. Okay. But it's not me pointing my finger at you. My fingers are pointed at me on this. So as I go through this, so please hear that. So I've done that in my relationships. And you may say, well, how in the world does Jenga relate to relationships? Well, that's why you're here. Because today we're going to talk about the term, well, actually a new term, in the title of the sermon, relationship Jenga. Relationship Jenga. Let's pray. Hmm. Lord, give me your words to speak. Give me your compassion in my tone. And may everyone feel and know, excuse me, know your love by the end of what I communicate today. I ask you this in your Son's holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, let's get started. Whew, this is a tough one. All right, let's go to our scripture. For those of you who are following along with us, as it seems like, you can pray for me right now. I have something in my throat that has just popped in there, which you have happened. So hopefully it'll pop out in a little bit. We're in chapter 5 of Matthew as we are following Jesus chronologically. We are following Jesus chronologically. So we are going to be going through verses 23 through 26 in Matthew. Verses 23 through 26 in Matthew. So if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, verse 24, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. 25, come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. 26, truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. I don't know if I said this during the time when I was speaking and the sound wasn't working, but I did remember, and if I'm saying this a second time, I apologize. If you go, those of you online, to the notes section, I do have all of the scriptures and also other notes from the message and sermon on the notes page today. I was able to do it today, so very excited about that. All right. Praise be to God for his word. Now, before we continue, it's very important that we set the proper context. Because if you jump in and if someone just gave you the scriptures for 5:23 through 26, you may jump to or think of something which is not what this is talking about because of the context. Because one of the things you may look at and see, remember, if your brother has something against you, Well, if you're a Christian and you're actually walking out your Christian faith, there's definitely going to be brothers and sisters, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, about does this mean just Christians or does this mean everybody? I'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's just say it's Christians. You're going to have Christians who disagree with you if you're actually faithful to Scripture. How many Christians disagree with you when it comes to sexual immorality? And like, well, Jesus never talked about sexual immorality. I'm like, yes, he did. He specifically mentioned sexual immorality. And he was talking to in a Jewish context, to Jewish people who he knew when he talked about sexual immorality, they would go to their sacred book about what talks about sexual immorality. Well, what is that? That's the Old Testament for us. And if you go back into the Old Testament and you search for sexual immorality and what God says, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Bestiality, fornication, what I can go on and on and on. But there are numerous Christians who talk about, well, Jesus never talked about that. Or they'll pick some of them that, yeah, no, that's bad. Bestiality is bad. But, at the same thing in the Old Testament, they talk about other stuff, but that one's not bad. I'm like, so understand. That's just one example. There will be other ones that if you actually stand firm, even lovingly, on what God has said, you're going to have people who don't like you, who disagree with you. So you're like, okay, gosh, if I remember a brother, gosh, there may be a whole bunch of people who are against me. That is not what it's saying. And this is where we have to go and have the proper context. So we're going to go back 2 verses. Okay, 2 verses. So we're going to go to verse 21. We're going to 21 and 22, which last week we did a whole sermon on this. But again, for those of you who weren't here for that, but even if you were, just a reminder. Okay, Jesus said in verse 21, again, this is Matthew 21 and 26. Let me take that off. Sorry about that. So this is Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 and 26. 21 and 22. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool will be liable to the hell of fire. So we have to have the proper context. In this is the first of the six antitheses. All right. And so this is an entire piece that we have here. So 21 and 22 is Jesus is talking about how we as Christians have anger. And then now he's saying, okay, here's some of what's going to happen to you in verses 21 and 22, judgment, hellfire. But here, 23 through 26, he's talking about the consequences you will also have in the world. Okay, by doing that, how that anger impacts your life. And he's just giving 2 examples of this. So the first one is verses 23 and 24. Okay, in verses 23 and 24, we're going to read those again. Okay, verses 23 and 24, we're going to read those again. And with this, he says, we already did this. So if you are offering your gift at the altar, oh, thank you. I've just been given a glass of water. Oh, to help with an angel from heaven has come down from on high to actually help me on this. So thank you very much, angel from heaven. So let me go back. Verse 23 and 24. So if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. So let me set this scene up properly. So we're first going to deal with, let's talk about, I mentioned a little earlier about brother. There is some debate when it comes to this. There are a number of scholars who are of the opinion that brother means here brother in Christ or brother and sister in Christ. So we're talking about this is a Christian to Christian fracturing of a relationship. Others say, no, this is just a relationship fracturing between people. Now, how do they come with those two different, in a sense, okay, wait a minute. So context and all that other stuff. How do you come with two different things? Well, there is definitely a reason. And those of you who are live, you can go, I actually put this up here in the notes section, definitions of brother. Okay. Okay. If you're here live, one of the reasons it's good to be live sometimes, or actually all the time, because you also can interact and ask me questions as well. Definitions of brother. So I'm going to go through these. There's 6 definitions, and then there's some corollaries as well. So I'm going to go through these slowly so you have them. Definitions of brother. All right. Definition number 1. A brother, whether born of the same 2 parents or only of the same father or mother. Okay. Number 1. 2, having the same national ancestor, belonging to the same people or countrymen. So, like Jewish, Israelites, something like that. 3, any fellow or man. So, any person is 3. 4, a fellow believer united to another by the bond of affection. Okay, a Christian in this case for us. 5, an associate in employment or office. I didn't even know this one. Okay. And then 6, brethren in Christ. Okay. Brethren, so the brothers in Christ. So, and then so there's corollaries to this one. So 6a, his brothers by blood. Okay. If you go into Judas, I forget all the James, I'm forgetting a couple that it talks about his brothers, and also that would include his sisters. Okay. That also include his sisters. B, all men, which is then again all people. C, apostles. And D, Christians, as those who are exalted to the same heavenly place. So that's why there's confusion. Because in here is like you're not exactly sure what Jesus definitely meant there. Now, where I fall at this time, just where I am as in this sort of area, is I just fall all people. So I take this verse as like all people. Now, am I saying I'm definitely right on this? No, I'm not. Again, because there's again scholars on both sides, reputable, who have differences of opinions on this, pastors who have differences of opinion on this. So I want to be clear on that. I just believe for me, it's safer. And also, if you kind of look to see how Jesus is and treats all people, how Jesus also came to die for Jew and Gentile alike, I just, in my heart, it's more for me, it's for all people. But either way, even if I just say, hey, it's just for Christians, those of us who are Christians, we know we've wronged Christians as well as non-Christians. And Jesus, again, talking, this is a Sermon on the Mount, he is talking to the people there, and he's a Galilean, so he's most likely talking to Galileans. There are obviously other people there. So you've got to get this picture. So go back to the scriptures. We're going to go back and we're going to stay there. So I want you to see this, okay? If you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember your brother has something against you, I need you to get this. This means you're at the altar. The altar, and I got to get, like a lot of us will say, okay, we're at church, wherever we are, like this is Warrenton, Virginia. So let's say you're at a local church here in Warrenton. You're up there, you're getting ready to give your offering in the plate, whatever, and you remember you have something against, or actually it's more someone has something against you and you know you're at fault with this. Not saying the other person isn't at fault as well, but you know that you're at fault and you haven't dealt with that. You actually removed that Jenga block. Okay? That's what how Jenga we're going to talk about. You're playing relationship Jenga because you have done something and you removed that block and put it up on top. Okay? And maybe you've removed more than one block in different areas and put it up on top. So Jesus is saying, hey, you need to stop, go, leave your gift, whatever you were going to give, and go and reconcile with your brother. And so we think about, wow, that's hard. That's that's tough. Can I do it afterwards? I mean, I'm at church now. Again, this is what again, we're all about with ACIW. Church is a people, not a building. The building, there's nothing specifically holy about the building. You are the temple of God. God is in you. And this is where we get things all mixed up. It's about the people, it's about the person. So this is again, it's like stop now, leave, even with your family. You may have to get your family up and go, I got to go do this. I'll be back. How many people do that? No, I didn't do that. I still don't do that lots of times. I'm getting better, but I'm going to be honest. That's why I'm saying this. I'm like, it stabs me here and here and here. Like I'm bleeding all over the floor with conviction. You think that's hard? Where we actually have cars and nice smooth roads here in the United States. Well, let me help you out a little bit. We're talking about the altar here is in Jerusalem. So Jesus is saying, you're going up to the altar in Jerusalem. And you remember, oh, I did such and such. I cursed at someone. I defrauded something, whatever it is. Jesus is saying, put the gift down. And if you're a Galilean, that most likely means you're going to have to go back to Galilee to make things right. First century. So what does that mean? Galilee right next door? Is Galilee, like for example, Warrington, do I have to like go to Opal? Opal's like right next to, so for me, where we are, actually, I'm going to even make it easier for me. All right. There's where's a place? Broad Run. There's Broad Run, and I'm in officially New Baltimore. So I could probably get to Broad Run. It's maybe 4 or 5 miles or something, maybe 3 miles or something like that. 5 miles at tops. So I'd have to, again, first century, I'd have to walk there. Ooh, how hard is that? I gotta walk 5 miles to apologize, and I don't know how many blocks I've removed. I don't know. I don't know how many blocks I've removed. It's easy to know, for example, when you've removed so many blocks and the Jenga tower, your relationship tower has fallen into smithereens, and you know it's like it's a mess. Okay. And you at least know you're supposed to do that, and we still don't. And that's obviously the the rebuilding of that. It's going to take a long, 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 long time. But I fool myself is that I actually remove blocks. Sometimes I don't know I remove the block. Sometimes I do. And I think, well, the other person should have done this too, and they're not doing that or whatever. And we're still talking to that person. We're still, communicating. But that relationship tower is becoming more and more wobbly. And the Lord, so you've got to go do this and go take care of this. Is it just a 5 mile walk, would be, how many of us would do it? People. It's even worse than that. So I went to the Biblical Archaeology website, which actually, and I looked up and said, okay, how long does it back in the first century take to go from Jerusalem to Galilee? Now, you also need to remember that I had to go from Galilee to Jerusalem to actually give the gift. So I already did this going one way, took all of this effort, because look at the effort you have to do. So let's talk about the fastest route. Fastest route. Option number one, and this is in your notes as well, those of you who are here live, it is in your notes. And I think here we go. And I also, just so you can track it on what we're doing here with the video. All right, the central and shortest route goes through Samaria. Pilgrims would have passed the cities of Sepphoris, Nazareth, Tirzah, Shechem, Shiloh, and Bethel. Although this route would have taken only 3 days, 3 days by foot, many Jews chose to avoid it. They preferred longer routes that were historically safer. Now, we must remember the Jews hated the Samaritans, and the Samaritans didn't like the Jews either because of how the Jews treated the Samaritans. Okay, Jews considered the Samaritans half-breeds. I'm not going to go through all the history of that. You can look that up. But most Jews actually avoided going through Samaria. That's 3 days. But let's talk about what most Jews did. They did option number two. This is the eastern route that crosses the Jordan River, passes through the region of Perea, and then crosses back over the Jordan River near Jericho. It would have taken pilgrims 5 to 7 days to traverse it. Cities along this path are Beth-shean, Pella, Succoth, and Jericho, as well as smaller villages as Bethpage and Bethany. Because of the Jewish communities in Perea, this region was safer and more hospitable to the Jews. 5 to 7 days. 5 to 7 days. Jesus is saying, and I didn't even give you the last one. There's a third major route that third major route is closer to the Mediterranean Sea. I'm not even going to go through all of that. That one's even longer than 5 to 7 days. Let's just take the 5 to 7 days one, which is what most people do. 5 to 7 days? It took me 5 to 7 days. Actually, again, we got to remember, it took us 5 to 7 days to actually get there. It took us 5 to 7 days to get there to give our offer. And then you're telling me I got to go back 5 to 7 days to make amends and actually do something uncomfortable, which I've been like avoiding for who knows how long. And then after I do that, I got to come back and give my gift 5 to 7 days. Are you seeing how extremely, extremely important Jesus is saying when we remove that block from our relationship tower with whomever we have a relationship with, and how important it is for you to make it right, for you to reconcile? Do you see the seriousness of giving in to our pride, our selfishness, and our anger? Because anger, we talked about last week, anger rises from selfishness. And what was the first sin? Pride. I mean, it's like way up here, but I know I don't treat it that way. It is extremely, extremely important. But the challenge is not easy, but I'm not done. That's just the first scenario he gives you. The second scenario which is verses 25 through 26. And I'm going to read that again. We're going to read 25 and 26 again. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly, verse 26, truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have paid the last penny. I was thinking of summarizing this in my own words, but I was like, wow, you know what? The NIV application commentary does such a great job. I'm just going to read and maybe put in some asides with the application, NIV application commentary. Okay, so you, Christian, you're on the way to court. Okay, there's some dispute about money. Now, the reason we know it's money because Jesus talks about in 26 until you have paid the last penny. So it's about money. We are most likely sure that this is a Gentile legal setting since there is no current record in Jewish law of imprisonment for debt. So this one clearly is any person. Okay. Obviously, Jews can take you to court, Roman court or whatever, not handling it within obviously the Jewish circle, so to speak. But obviously, this one, let's just say this is a Gentile who you have wronged or whatever it is, and you now owe them money. And you do. It is something that you did, based again on the context from verses 21 and 22. So this could be anyone. And that's why it also leads me to believe that 23 and 24 could be anyone as well. That's why I'm also more led to believe on that. So back to what the application Bible says. Before the legal process is put into action, Jesus' disciples are to settle matters quickly. And actually, literally, what it says is to make friends quickly. Okay? It actually says to make friends quickly. More than simply discharging legal affairs, Jesus' disciples are to seek a kind of reconciliation that creates friendships out of adversarial relationships. Oh my goodness, how hard is that? How hard is that? Well, there are also situations where you may owe someone money and you actually don't believe it's really mainly your fault. Or you maybe believe it's not your fault. Even may legally, by the letter of the law, you may. And so you really don't feel like doing this. Like, for example, people who like avoid their taxes in certain ways and they don't feel that tax is right or appropriate. And Jesus talked about paying your taxes. So I'm not even going to go there. Now, let me continue with what it talks about. Remaining imprisoned until a debt is repaid down to the last penny. And the actual term that is, it's called a chondrantes, which depending on what I read, it's either the smallest Roman coin or the second smallest. Most people say it's the smallest Roman coin. So that's why it's called a penny for those of us here in the United States to help us to understand. It's like this pretty much as small as you can get. And the point is that it's impossible for you to repay because you owe the money and you're in prison. How are you going to make money? Unless you somehow have a business that is generating money by itself while you're not there, which is not generally the case. You're going to be in prison forever. That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, and I'll read this, I like how it says this. Jesus uses this scenario to return to the seriousness of the problem of anger. Unreconciled anger is the inner equivalency of murder, which is impossible to repay. To leave problems unreconciled is to allow the sin that has been created to continue to destroy relationships between people. I, I just I just can't even you there's so many times, and I know those of you who've been following us here at Church in the World, you hear me say this over and over and over again. You read scripture, you read scripture, you read scripture, and then there are certain times you read scripture and you're like, oh, I know I've read it before, but it just hits you hard, hits you harder. This is again just even going through all of these scriptures from 17 through 48, and we're not even halfway through, and I'm just being hit in between the eyes of how serious Jesus considers unreconciled anger, unreconciled slights and injuries that we commit to other people and we let it go. I have failed, and I mentioned it earlier, I have failed so mightily in this area because of my pride. And I know God hates pride. We're going to quickly go to, there's so many verses on this, but we'll just do a couple quick ones. Proverbs 11:2. Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. Proverbs 16:5. Proverbs 16:5. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. And I'm still prideful. I keep begging, I'm like, and then you have that prayer, which you know he will actually fulfill. That's the great thing about God. If you're sincere about a prayer, and I'm going to say it out loud because I know he's serious about this. I'm like, Lord, if you got to beat it out of me, beat it out of me. But I prefer that you not beat it out of me, just like go out of me. But if that needs, and he's been as a loving dad, and I know if for a lot of other people, please go read Hebrews where it talks about the Lord chastens, and you could actually say scourges those that he loves. Okay. So, but if that is just too harsh for you, okay, chastens. I need to be chastened because I don't want to be prideful. And then reading this again is like, it's terrible. And then on top of my pride, I talked about this last week, is my selfishness. And I'm selfish. And we're going to do a couple of scriptures on selfishness. Oh, joy. I get to just continue this chastening. So we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 10:24. 1 Corinthians 10:24. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. What? I'm not supposed to seek my own good? How countercultural is that? Because right now it's all about me. How do I feel? Self-love, self this, self that. It's all about me feeling good. That's you got to take care of yourself. It's like no one should seek their own good, but the good of others. But the good of others. I know this. I'm better, but I still stink. I'd get an F. I'm a teacher. I get an F. Okay. Now I used to be like an X, so I think I've kind of maybe moved up to a P, and that's not P for passing. James 3:16. Oh, there's so much on pride and selfishness scripture wise. Just do a search. Just do a search. Bible talks about Bible selfish. Bible pride. and you will see boatloads of verses, all saying about the same thing. James 3:16. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. Oh God, goodness gracious. Uh, we know this, but we continue to remove those Jenga blocks from our relationship towers. We believe this, that we're not causing harm to our relationships because we do this. I've talked about it earlier. The tower is still upright. You look at it. If you ever played Jenga before, it looks like, but it's moved slightly. If you ever pull them out, it moves a little bit. Structure changes. But that's a point. A couple points I want to make here. We cannot play Jenga with our relationships because, as I talked about, when you actually remove a block from our tower and we will put it on top, we need to immediately, when we realize that we've pulled it out and put it on top, and maybe even realize while you've just pulled it out and you realize, whoa, 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 I need to make that right. I'm just saying, once you actually fracture a relationship, and we've got to just understand this, you can't put that block back in the tower. And those of you who played Jenga, you know that. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible unless it's like the very beginning of the game, because when you pull it out, the structure of the tower changes. And when we actually do something to disturb the equilibrium of our relationships, we have changed them. So it goes up on top, but now you have to work to fill that hole with something new. And the block will kind of look the same, but you're going to have to maybe file it and sand it and shape it and stuff. And that's you needing to change. That's you and me coming and meeting that person where they are. That's me and you dying to ourselves. So we actually can make a block and fill in that hole, which will be different from what it was before. It was better if we had never done it. That's definitely true. But if you shape and mold and die to ourselves and desire, not just desire humility, ask the Lord to do whatever he needs to do to make us more humble, then we can actually create a piece that will now fit into that new reality. And even though it's different, your relationship will grow because you actually took that other piece and put it on top. So your actual tower will grow and will be stable at the same time. It will be different. But that's how God takes our mistakes and still makes something beautiful out of it. Because even with the mistakes, which again, it's better never to have made the mistake, but he can still take that and mold and shape you so it fits and it's still beautiful, and that relationships can still grow and be strong. I'm going to leave you with a couple of scriptures to kind of give you somewhat of a picture of who we need to be and who we are. And due to time, I could have done a lot more that discussed about humility and everything like that. So I encourage you to look at scriptures that talk about humility. For example, the scripture on, let me go. Go. For example, we're going to do a quick Very good. Let's see if I can do this quickly. I don't know if I can. Let's see if I can. We're going to go quickly back to Proverbs 11:2. Let's see if I want to actually do this on my handy dandy tablet. I want to, this is something added. I did not plan to do that. Do this. Oh, I tried it, didn't work. Let's try again. All right, it's not letting me do it. I know, see, I'm not good enough on this thing yet. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. Let's see if I can. Let's try again. Proverbs. Those of you who are live, this is what happens when you're live and in person. Wait, I think I'm getting it. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Yes. Okay. Proverbs 11:2. This is the whole one. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. With humility comes wisdom. I on purpose left that part out because I wanted to save it for now. With pride comes, when pride comes, then comes disgrace. With humility comes wisdom. So that's an extra one I was getting to use. So we're going to go to 1 John 14. Oops, sorry. 1 John 4, looking at the wrong thing. 1 John 4, verses 19 through 21. 1 John 4, verses 19 through 21. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen, and remember, I'm taking brother as just person, whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother. And again, there could be a disagreement here in 1 John. Contextually, this is talking particularly about a Christian. So I'm fine with that. So it's definitely, if that's what you believe, that's fine. And also if you want to take this to be anyone. We can't, we cannot have enmity against our brother, or, and now what I'm saying, our fellow human being who we've wronged. Can't do it. We can, but we shouldn't. We are not representing Christ. And this is a short but very powerful verse, this last one I'm going to leave you with, is Romans 12:18. Romans 12:18. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Live peaceably with all. So if it depends on you, it depends on you, we should do everything in our power to heal our relationships. There's sometimes when we've done wrong and we want to go and try to heal relationships, and they won't, the person that you want to try to reconcile with will not reconcile with you. That happens. It does. And then only thing you can do, you did try and you continue to pray for that person. But you've done what God has called you to do. You have humbled yourself. You have taken that block. You've gotten another block out of the Jenga pile, because you leave the other one up top because you want to grow. You still want to grow that relationship. And you've done your filing, your shaping, or whatever to be able to put it in to do that. But they won't receive it. And so that relationship's going to stay in that state, at least from that person's. But from you, you pray, ask the Lord to help you in areas that you, and I'm talking to myself right now. I just talked about this with a friend of mine about someone who I believe has wronged me. And I asked him to pray for me, and I continue to need to have prayers on this. But you've done what you can do. And so I pray for you, everyone here, that you are able, or you desire, let's take that back, because God is able, that you desire, that you want to have a strong and stable Jenga relationship tower with all of your relationships, and that the Lord would communicate to you where you need to change, where there needs to be reconciliation. And he unctions you to do it, and you sincerely ask him, Lord, do whatever you need to do in me so I will execute. So I will do it. I pray that for you today. I hope that that is what you desire. Sometimes it's interesting that, let me back up. Those of you who don't know, because I have to always remember there may be new people here. So the McLaughlin family, uh, we are a music family. We really enjoy music. And that's not just those of us who are here in the Virginia area, but my family up in New Jersey, and even before so with my mom and dad, and it's just been a part of who we are. And I don't know if you had the opportunity. I don't know if everyone, again, hopefully everyone knows. If you don't know, the service actually starts at 10:45. So if you go to aciw.online.church, if you go there, and at 10:45 there will be a usually usually three songs that we have for our worship music. And we actually go and read, and I'm always striving to make sure that the music that we play is theologically sound, and also can I hopefully get it to relate to what I'm talking to for the day. Well, sometimes you get a song which again I really like, and it fits. It fits so well. And today is one of those days. And so at times, even though I have it in the worship quote unquote playlist, and some of you may have already listened to it and maybe you haven't, and obviously those on video on demand, I hopefully most of the time I'm trying to all the time have our worship playlist for that week. Okay. Have that worship playlist for the week. So you can always listen to the music. We create a separate link that is always going to go to those songs, no matter what time of year and whatever. We don't use the same one. So we actually give you that opportunity. So, but just in case you didn't, I believe this song by King and Country called Ceasefire truly, truly captures what we need to do. So as we quote unquote, I fade to black and I'm finishing up for today, I pray that this song blesses you, and I pray you have a wonderful rest of your week. And for those of you who are here for the first time, and from what I'm saying now, or even after the song, in your heart you want to know Jesus more, please contact us here at A Church in the World, where we're here to coach people for the glory of God. Enjoy.
How do we save a
the truth we're preaching, and lies are what we're believing. No one ever wins when the goal is to settle the score. One by one we will call for a ceasefire. One by one we will fight for a better end. One by one we can rewrite the headlines, standing side by side. One by one love is building an empire. One by one reaching out to our enemies. One by one we will make it to the finish line, standing side by side. Ceasefire. I will be the first to say I'm far from perfect, but grace was made for those who don't deserve it. So easy to cast the first stone, much harder to search your own soul. No one ever wins when the goal is to settle the score. One by one we will call for a ceasefire. One by one we will fight for a better end. One by one we can rewrite the headlines, standing side by side. One by one love is building an empire. One by one reaching out to our enemies. One by one we will make it to the finish line, standing side by side. Ceasefire. Teach us how to live humbly, love unconditionally, transform our hurt into hope, and grant us your peace. Teach us how to live